5:38 p.m. Las Vegas time last Sunday, the moment the country effectively united.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Viking, exploring the world in comfort. With a fleet of small ships, Viking offers travel experiences for the thinking person. Discover more at Viking.com. And by Progressive. Progressive Commercial Insurance protects small businesses with customizable coverage options as unique as your business. More at ProgressiveCommercial.com.
I'm David Brancaccio. First, some drivers for Uber and Lyft are planning to strike at times tomorrow, Valentine's Day. They want the platforms to take a smaller share of the money drivers take in and improve working conditions. Marketplace's Nova Safo has more.
Drivers are expected to strike for 2 hours between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. The idea is to not accept rides to and from 10 airports, including some of the nation's busiest, Chicago's O'Hare, Miami International, and Newark in the New York City area. The drivers say the commissions that rideshare companies take are too big. Among other things, they want commissions capped at 10%. Also, a minimum wage guarantee, healthcare benefits, and an independent appeals process for drivers who are booted off platforms. Just last week, in a bid to lure more drivers, Lyft said it would guarantee that drivers keep 70% of what customers pay. That's after external fees, such as local taxes, are deducted. At the same time, Lyft and Uber are engaged in fierce competition for post-pandemic market share. That competition includes a price war. Lyft has been trying to limit the use of surge pricing, something the company says customers loathe. But drivers complain that their earnings are decreasing. One demand is for minimum pay to match New York City's, nearly $28 an hour. I'm Nova Safo for Marketplace.
Ahead of the January inflation report this morning, stock index futures haven't moved much here. Predictions were maybe 100 million people would watch the Super Bowl. Now, iSpot says it was 126 million, up 11% from a year earlier. Adobe Analytics and Nielsen say 123 million, most of it on CBS, of course, but there's also Univision, Nickelodeon, and Paramount Plus. A good game with overtime helped. The Taylor Swift-Travis Kelce pairing didn't hurt, and maybe you felt it Sunday, but at 8:38 Eastern, 5:38 Vegas time, going into Usher's halftime show, the peak of the peak and a rare moment of unified experience in our fractured media environment. This makes it the most watched program in U.S. history.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Otter.ai. If someone's late to the meeting, there's no worries. Otter's AI-powered meeting assistant takes live notes and now answers questions like, what were the action items? Learn more at Otter.ai. And by C3 Generative AI, verified traceable answers, secure, hallucination-free, LLM-agnostic, IP liability-free. Learn more at C3.ai.
Econ Extra Credit now, one documentary a month exploring marketplace themes. This month, it's the 2023 film Invisible Beauty, streamable from many sources, about activist and iconic fashion model Beth Ann Hardison, who was a driving force in what was called the Diversity Coalition that pressured for change in an earlier generation. Today, a disturbing reminder that change in an industry is an ongoing process. Tatiana Siegel is executive editor of film and media at Variety, where her reporting has explored working conditions in modeling and fashion. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, David.
You've found people who've described some of the contracts that models work under as, I think the word here is suffocating.
Suffocating, exploitative, opaque. A lot of models are unable and have no recourse to see the contracts that they've signed. A lot of models, English is not their first language, and they're signing contracts that are in English. So, yeah, the whole thing is pretty egregious.
I guess I'm just naive. I was not prepared to read your accounts of some of the recruitment methods that you've found used by some modeling agencies. Give us a sense.
I've heard of modeling agencies recruiting in refugee camps outside of eating disorder clinics. So that is quite eye-opening.
To say the least, and shocking. So New York, center of this industry, I think it's fair to say, there's proposed legislation, not yet enacted. I think it's called the New York Fashion Act and the Fashion Workers Act. Give me a sense of what the initiative is there.
Basically, New York has this unique carve out where modeling agencies don't have to operate in the same way that any other employer does in New York. The Model Alliance, which is an advocacy group, has fought for this legislation called the Fashion Workers Act that they were able to get through the Senate last year in New York, but it never got voted on in the Assembly, even though it has bipartisan support. So they have re-updated the language to include AI protections because that's something that played out last year with the SAG-AFTRA strike and is becoming an increasing concern. So they got in this new language and they're ready to reintroduce it.
Now, let's stay on the potential and challenges of artificial intelligence for people working in the modeling industry. You've talked to people who remember that their agencies have electronically scanned their bodies. For what purpose, do you think?
No one knows. No one can really articulate what is being done with these scans, but it's alarming. We're already seeing the use of AI models. I think Gucci and Levi's have used campaigns that feature AI creations. It's not some science fiction possibility. It's happening.
I think you wrote about that Levi's campaign. Am I right? They had a computer generated like avatars that look like models. And in some cases, they didn't hire a black model. They constructed one electronically.
They touted it. They weren't even hiding behind, that they did this. They were touting this as like, this is a great step in sort of diversifying our modeling campaigns. And models that I talk to who are models of color who have been excluded from the industry for decades or treated less than were pretty aghast because, they're willing to work. So you have Levi's creating some model of color that doesn't exist to tout its own diversification efforts.
Tatiana Siegel has done reporting extensively on this topic. She's executive editor of film and media at Variety. Ms. Siegel, thank you very much.
Thank you again.
We have more on these New York laws in progress to in part beef up protections against discrimination and harassment of models and creatives. Marketplace.org/econ extra credit also has a click to sign up button for our weekly newsletter full of econ and money lessons from our movie watching. I'm David Brancaccio, Marketplace Morning Report. From 8 p.m., American Public Media.